Good evening, and tonight we're talking about the 5 ways that the elements can guide us. In actual fact, that was the topic for last week, because our Facebook Lives are the first Monday of every month. Hi Ola, nice of you to join us. And we changed it because last week we were in New Zealand. Hi Haresh. And New Zealand, as many of you know, is one of only 2 countries in the world where all 4 elements are in balance. Theoretically. There's always the exception that proves the rule, isn't there? Hi Fanula, Bronwyn, Julie, Doris. It's really nice of you to join tonight. So there we were in New Zealand, where 4 of the 5 elements are in balance and harmony, staying at a motel where the internet didn't support Facebook Lives. It was fascinating. Hi Sonia, hi Glynis and Pia. I'm Marianne. I could have said, let's make this happen. Let's do it anyway and just hope that some people are able to access what we do. And so I tuned in and I asked in meditation, was I to do that? The answer was no. That's the 5th element, because the 5th element is ether. The energy was not balanced. I'm not surprised. We were in New Zealand and it was the day before we were due to take possession of our new home there. So obviously the energy was up and down. There was a lot of excitement and uncertainty about how it would all happen. So I decided to postpone it until we came back to Australia, where I knew that the internet would be very supportive. So that's an example of how when the elements aren't in balance and aligned, it can be difficult to take something forward. Air's about how we communicate. So if the internet's not working, the communication isn't going to be easy. Water is about how we flow with life. If we try to make something happen, we're not flowing with life. Fire is the inspiration, the motivation for us to step up and do things. Well, the motivation was certainly there. And yet, and of course, earth is how we ground. It's what anchors who we are and what we do. Hi Yumiko, nice to have you here. Hi Vicky. If I had pushed to make last week happen, I wouldn't have been in flow. I certainly wouldn't have been grounded. I would have been resisting the energy. And if you resist the energy, you make it difficult for yourselves. I don't believe in making things difficult. And I don't believe Spirit wants us to make things difficult for ourselves. So at that point you step back and you have a look. And in stepping back and having a look, it also allows other things to occur. The earthquakes that we have heard about are the elements showing us where humanity as a whole isn't grounded, where we're resisting the energy within us to share, to be kind, to be accepting, to be supportive of each other. We've got Kilauea erupting in Hawaii and opening up new cracks every day. New cracks in the crust. So here's the Earth's crust from the inside coming out, hardening, setting. And even that is being broken up because we're in a very special period of time where anything's possible, unless we try to make it fit a picture that we think it should fit. The elements aren't about being controlled. The elements show us where we control too much, where we're not in balance and harmony, where we need a little bit more, for example. And particularly at this point, because we're having a new moon experience, as we do every month. However, the first time in my living memory that Uranus has moved into the sign of Taurus. It probably happened earlier, I just wasn't paying attention. And that's what I say, in my living memory. Uranus moving into Taurus is quite a shift. It's a shift around the earth, around how we take care of the earth. It's about our responsibility for selves. And if the earth isn't taken care of in our lives, the ground beneath our feet is very shaky indeed. Uranus is about sudden, unexpected shifts and changes that make us stop conforming the earth's crust and choosing to allow ourselves to be different, to be unique, to step up and be seen. So this particular chat about the elements wasn't planned, arrived tonight unexpectedly because of something that happened a week ago. I guess what I'm saying is, if you want to work with the elements, and I really recommend it, the first thing you throw away is the need to control. The second thing you throw away is the need to be right. And the third thing you throw away is the need to be safe. When we work with the elements, when we're aligned to ether, then we're handing our safety over to the guides and the teachers who work with us. We're saying to them that we're ready to work with them, and we know that they will guide us to make the best choices, take the most important steps that we can take on our journey, in the full confidence that we're supported every step of the way. The only time we're not supported is when we stop supporting ourselves. If you don't feel you connect to any of the elements, then it's important to look first at what your archetypes are, because the archetypes are also elemental energies. And the archetypes may show you where you have an element that you didn't know you possessed. Secondly, you can look at your astrology chart. Your sun, your moon, your prenatal eclipse will tell you. The astrology chart has all of the elements, but they may not be active. And so that's a different topic, and probably, if anybody's interested, that's something that we can certainly talk about another time. But certainly, if you look at your prenatal eclipse, your moon and your sun, you'll know, and your signature, you will know if you have earth, fire, air, water in your chart. Ether is a different thing. You will not find ether in your chart. And that's because ether isn't a planetary configuration. It's a different thing altogether. Yes, it can be found in astrology if you know where to look. But it's not something that I talk about a lot, because my experience has been that I might say to somebody, oh, look, you have this particular aspect in your chart. And then that becomes a badge that people wear that proves who they are to other people. Now that, needing to find a badge to wear to prove who you are for others, is water. That's a need to feel reassured and to feel safe. But it doesn't necessarily make you feel any better. And if somebody else has told it to you, you don't necessarily believe it, which means you don't feel supported by it. The elements are really powerful aspects of what's occurring in our lives. If we look at the natural world, the earthquakes, the volcanic eruptions, the floods, the hurricanes, each of these is an element. And each of these elements is at pressure point at the moment, because air, how we communicate with each other, is lacking kindness. Fire, we motivate ourselves at the expense of other people, so we don't collaborate. Water, we try to make the energy flow the way we think it should, so we create dams, and dams burst. That's why rivers burst their banks. And earth, we put ourselves into boxes that say we could, should, must, or ought. And because of it, we try to hold the earth still. The earth is a living being. The tectonic plates are moving all of the time. The more we try to anchor them in place, the more we fight the natural order of things. And the elements are all about the natural order of things. I've got a couple of questions that I'd just like to answer at this point. People often describe me as very grounded. Does that mean I'm being guided primarily by the earth element? Not necessarily. It means that the earth element is strong for you. It's not something that you need to develop. You naturally have it there. And that's a good thing. If one or maybe two elements are missing from the astrology chart, is that because you don't need them in this lifetime? No, it means that those elements are being taken care of in a different way. So for example, in an astrology chart, you may find that you have no earth. Doesn't mean that you can't be grounded. It just means that you're working on being grounded in a more subtle way, and other things are more important. I've heard that the water element is all about emotions. If someone is very sensitive, how can they use water or the other elements to find more balance? And the key to the answer is in the question. How can they use water or the other elements to find more balance? You find balance by using all of the elements. You don't focus on just one. I've heard people say, oh, so-and-so is a great communicator. Yes, that person probably is. However, that person is not one-dimensional. And if you only focus on being a great communicator, you've got 4 other pieces of yourself. 80% of yourself isn't being called into play, which is a bit of a shame, really, because I'm sure you're much more than a cardboard cutout figure. That was Orla, by the way. Thanks, Orla. Juliet says resistance plays a big part where Earth is concerned. And that's very true, because the Earth energy is about our limitations and our resistances. As we go through those, the Earth becomes a solid foundation. It will always support us no matter what is happening. So how do we work with resistance without it sabotaging things? Well, that's an interesting question. If you work with resistance, will it sabotage? Depends how you go about it. If you try to make yourself do something, then you're not working with resistance, you're trying to subdue resistance. Resistance is there because there's a piece that you don't yet know that could help things to flow more easily. So it's kind of like the traffic lights. When you've got resistance, you've got a red light and it's saying stop, have a look at the bigger picture and see what you've perhaps not yet taken into account. When you've got hesitation, it's the orange light. And of course, when everything's in alignment, you've got the green light and you can go. So how can you use resistance best? By asking yourself, what is it I still need to uncover, discover, or recognize? Then it's not a judgment, it's an opportunity to discover more, to step forward. Julie says, are people generally covered by all elements once you consider all aspects, astrology, archetypes, etc., or can you be lacking in some areas? No. That's a simple answer, no. We are always given everything we need. Where the elements are concerned, we've always got all of them. And the simplest way is to look at the senses. The fact that we can talk, we have the air element. The fact that we can feel, we have water. The physical body is the earth. And of course, we have a heart and a spirit inside us. So we have the fire, which is the life within us, is the flame, is the fire. And our spirit gives us the 5 aspects. So even if we don't have it astrologically or through the archetypes, or we don't feel that we have it, it doesn't mean that it's lacking. And one of the things I was asked was about pink bubbles. Pink bubbles, what you have with the pink bubbles is acceptance and a willingness to collaborate and to share. It involves air, because you think of people who might benefit from receiving pink bubbles. The energy of pink bubbles is acceptance, which is water. The fact of sending them is a practical action, so it's earth. And the impact it has on people is an inspiration, so it's fire. Above all, it's guided by spirit, so it's ether. I'd like to talk about pink bubbles in another Facebook Live if people are interested. So if you're interested in having a Facebook Live about pink bubbles and the myth that lies around it, and there is a huge myth, then put a comment on the Facebook page here and let me know. We can take it further. Does that clarify things? Is there any question anybody wants to ask that I've not covered so far that you feel might help you a bit more? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to decide if you want more information on the elements. Yes, we've got people interested in the pink bubbles, so quite happy to do that. Is there anything you want to ask about the elements before I decide that I'm going to run away? Because shortly we're doing our moon cycle meditation and we're all going to talk to Uranus. At least, I hope we are. Okay, it looks as though there's an interest in the pink bubbles, which is good. We can do all sorts. So Amanda says she'd like another session on the elements. Well, during this month, for those of you that may not know, on the Insight Teachings website, there's a blog also, and each week there's an article. This week, the articles are all about the elements. So tomorrow's article is about working with air and fire. Next week's article is about working with water and earth. And then there's going to be something about ether. More importantly, I'm going to be challenging you to do some work with it, to do some work with the elements, because it would be good to get some momentum moving within the group here about working with the elements, working with any theme each month. That improves your connection spiritually, and it certainly anchors who you are moving forward. So Julie says, when we are upset and react, not respond, are the elements deliberately playing with us to provide opportunities? Not quite. It's a good question. When we're upset, we've been set up by ether, by spirit. However, we could only be set up if the elements within us weren't aligned. When we're in full alignment, we don't get upset by anything. So we always respond, we don't react. When we react, something's out of alignment within, and ether is giving us the opportunity to recognize it and do something with it. So that's a great question, Julie. Thank you. Well, if there are no more questions on the elements at the moment, you can still pop your questions in after the fact. Thank you very much for joining. I've really appreciated it, and I really appreciate the people who take the time to write in and ask me questions that I can then offer during these Facebook Lives. So enjoy Uranus moving into Taurus. Enjoy this new moon, because it's about change and we surely need it. Take care until the next time. Bye for now.